Hey guys, thank you so much for clicking on this Netflix review. The fact that you are willing to sacrifice a few minutes out of your day to consume my content really does mean the world to me. For those of you that do not know, I review everything that gets released on Netflix. So if you're ever curious about whether something is good, bad, or completely mediocre, and you don't want to waste your time, come to my channel and I will let you know my honest opinions. At the end of the day, my goal is to make sure that you only watch the best Netflix movies and series. So let's just get right into my review of My Unorthodox Life. So, My Unorthodox Life follows Julia Haart, the CEO of Elite World Group, who left an ultra-Orthodox Jewish community. And that's an incredibly hectic story. For those of you that are aware of anything like this as it happened before, it doesn't happen very often, and when it does, it's a big deal. This series actually shares a lot of similar themes to another Netflix property called Unorthodox, which is also about a Jewish woman leaving the really Orthodox community. And so there's a lot of positives to look at in this series because it's ultimately about a woman trying to remove herself from a very oppressive society. And we get to see the ramifications of that and the after effects on that, both on her psychologically, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And what's great about this series is it's actually reality TV. This isn't something that's scripted. This is something that we see unfold in real time. And so that's just a rough breakdown of what this series has to offer. And I'll say, I think it was like watching it was like being on a roller coaster ride. There were some scenes I really enjoyed and I found really captivating. But I feel like the series also just really halted. It screeched. It came to a snail pace. I feel like the biggest issue this series has is the pacing and the narration and the narrative beats. And of course, when it comes to reality TV, you've ultimately got not much control over what happens because you're trying to document real life. And that's exactly how real life is. But I do wish, and I really feel like the directors and the editors of the series or documentary or reality series could have been a lot more selective with what they include in the story. The things I enjoyed most about this series is whenever we actually got to watch this clash between ideologies, between fundamentalists and just modern day society. Julia often tackles this idea of how are my kids surviving in this transition from a very orthodox viewpoint on life and now living in the real world. She has a variety of different kids through very different ages. Some of them are married, some of them are only 14 years old. So she's got to deal with different children at different stages in their life. And she's trying to raise them to the best of her ability. But it's incredibly difficult because of their viewpoints on life. You're having to deal with kids who have their own identity, who have their own faith. How are you going to make sure that they're living the life that you believe is best for them? Themes and topics like that I really enjoyed, especially the second episode. The second episode was one of my favorites because you really get to tackle that subject matter head on. But then on the flip side of that, we get a lot of narrative beats and a lot of stories that I really feel detract from the series as a whole. Of course, then we start to get into reality TV territory where it literally feels like I'm sitting down watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It becomes a bunch of drama that I really don't feel like was necessary. There's a lot of narrative beats in this series where we get to witness the conflict between an orthodox lifestyle and the more modern mainstream lifestyle. And it has really important flips or different takes on normal narrative beats that we're used to in reality TV. For something as simple as a fertility test, it can become a big deal when you look at it at an orthodox viewpoint. And so stuff like that was very interesting. But I feel like there was just too much in this series that really just felt like everyday life. And I was sitting there going, I really don't feel like this narrative beat is sticking out to me. But that's just my personal take on it. This is coming from a person that really doesn't watch much reality TV and really doesn't find joy in it. What I loved most about this series was the subject matter and the themes of orthodox versus mainstream and everyday. So when it came to the reality, I found myself really finding myself unengaged. But if you're someone that loves reality TV, then I would highly recommend this series to you because it's not just regular everyday reality TV series. This tackles some very important themes. And it's crazy. We get to see a woman who has dealt with oppression, who has dealt with not being able to have her own identity, who's been forced into the background. And she's finally making a name for herself. And she's an incredibly influential figure. Julia Haart has done so much, not just for women in the modeling world, but for the modeling world in general. She's a force. And so it's absolutely incredible to see her humble beginnings to where she is now. I think what the series also does really, really well, and I think it's what Julia Haart does really well as a member of this cast, as the lead of this series. She makes sure that it's not an issue with the Jewish faith, but with fundamentalists in general. And she often talks about how she believes her story can be appreciated from women across the world, from different faiths, from different communities, because it's not about running away from a faith necessarily. It's about running away from a fundamentalist society and community. And I feel like that's a really important distinction to make, and I feel like they did do it very, very well. I know this is just reality TV, and I feel like my next statement is going to make me seem like I'm expecting more out of reality TV than what most people want out of reality TV. But I do wish we just got a little bit more from the other side of the curtain. We spend so much time in mainstream every day in this series that I wanted to see a little bit more of what happens in the community, in the incredibly Orthodox community. And I understand why they didn't shoot there much, but I'd love to just get a peek around the corner to really get a proper understanding of why Julia Haart found it so important to run away. And we do understand that that was an incredibly difficult time in her life. She breaks it down in some really important details, and she really makes it clear to us why she felt like that community wasn't for her and why she believed leaving was the best thing for her. And my heart really goes out to her, and I think it took a lot of courage from her to do that. And then one thing I noticed quite quickly and quite early on is it seems like there was a lot of reshoots for this series. What I mean by that is for those of you that are unaware, especially when it comes to reality TV, unfortunately, a lot of it is still scripted. A lot of the time, the directors or the cinematographers or whoever is in charge on set that day will step in and say, "Oh, sorry, we didn't really get that line. Would you mind saying it again? Or you slurred your words a little bit. Please repeat it." And they sometimes can really just like shift an entire scene just to make it more narrative worthy. And I feel like that happened quite a bit in this series, because there will be a lot of times someone will say something and the response feels very inauthentic. The response feels like it was definitely pre-planned. It never felt like it was just off the cuff. It was like, yo, so how was your day today? What's your relationship with your mom like? Well, I believe me and my mom have a lot in common because of this reason and this reason and this reason. When we bring each, and it's like, yo, okay, I really feel like you were told to say that. So there's a few moments like that, and I'm sure you guys will pick up on it as well. Either because I brought it up or because it really doesn't feel organic at times. But guys, at the end of the day, I would highly recommend this series to anyone that loves reality TV or anyone that's looking for something different. While a lot of people might just watch this and go, ooh, this is just another version of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, if you look through the surface level stuff, this is a series about some really complex people dealing with some very complex emotions and having to navigate a world that they're not necessarily used to. It's incredibly, incredibly interesting from a character study point of view. But guys, thank you so much for watching. You guys are the best. You are awesome. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you again in another review.